Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabados of Delmar, together with my co-host Mark Ronachos, statewide news service, jbiztechphilly.com, and as you can see right here, columnist for the Jewish Press.
And I'm having a lot of fun with all three assignments, and I tell you, my column in the Jewish Press is named Albany Beat, and I talk about how government relates to the Jewish community, or doesn't, as the case may be. And with us today is someone who really relates to the Jewish community, professor, or maybe doctor, professor, well, you got a PhD, so it's Dr. Len Cutler.
That's fine.
And Siena College pre-law advisor and professor of public law at Siena College.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So welcome
My
to the
pleasure
Jewish
to be here.
View. It's
Thank
good
you,
to
Mark.
see-
Thank you, Rabbi.
When we were talking earlier, when we were booking the show, you said that you're writing your third book on President Obama.
Yes,
That's
I am.
interesting.
What brings you to write so much about this president? Are you
Well,
a
I
big
think.
fan?
Pardon me?
Are you a big fan?
Well, I think fan is relative. How's that? Okay. Let me express it this way, if I will. This president, of course, has set all kinds of historic records in terms of not only his election, but some of his initiatives and accomplishments since he has been elected. And it has certainly accelerated interest on the part of the general community and certainly research and scholarship community. And I was involved with a group of professors, law professors, social science, political science professors, following his administration from the point at which he took his oath of office. And we agreed to do a series of conferences and workshops to begin with, evaluating the president halfway through his first term. So that's 2 years in, all right, 2010. So it was called a preliminary assessment, Mark. And as a result of the conference and symposium and presentations by each of us, there were about 25 to 30 involved at the University of Mississippi in Biloxi.
Oh, okay.
That's where we were at the time. We published this study through SUNY Press. In 2012, it was agreed, reconvene the group and to do an assessment at the end of his first full term.
Okay.
And each one of us, in fact, made a contribution. And my particular area of responsibility is counterterrorism, national security policy, and public law. So that section of the book was under my jurisdiction, and that was published as well in terms of University of Akron Press in Ohio. So my third now is examining, and this is solo. The others were co-authored and co-edited. This study is assessing the 2 full terms of the Obama presidency and the contributions that he's made and the areas of concern that I have with respect to his counterterrorism and national security policy.
Do you put your own opinion in there? I mean,
I
it's
do.
more like a
I do.
journalist, so to speak, or you say...
Well, it's an assessment. It's from a legal as well as from a public policy perspective, Rabbi. But do I insert my own perspective and view?
Sure.
Yes, I do.
That's what
Yes, I
makes
do.
it such a good book.
Yeah, and
You know,
it
you
may be
really-
controversial. There are those who will agree with me and those
Right.
who will not. And
Take it
this
for
will
what
be
it is.
published
Just to
next
be-
spring.
So can you give us a bit of an insight as to
You want a preliminary, huh?
Yeah.
what your
Mark
assessment is of this President Obama?
Well,
He
I
wants
think
a scoop.
I think quite fairly to say that at this point you can offer an assessment with respect to a legacy is premature.
Right.
Why do I suggest that? Not only because his presidency isn't concluded yet, but you need time to reflect and to do a full evaluation with respect to his place in history.
Exactly.
And that's what I mean by
And that
legacy,
takes
all right?
at least a decade after he leaves
Correct.
office, right?
So in response to your question with respect to assessing President Obama, I think in certain areas he has been strong, and in other areas he has
Okay.
left us considerably
Vulnerable?
of concern.
Okay, now what's your assessment of how he's dealt with Israel?
Oh, in terms of Israeli policy, I think it's mixed, and
Okay.
and his whole Middle Eastern policy
Right.
has created all kinds of issues with respect to Syria, with respect to Iraq,
Right.
with respect to Egypt, as well as his on-again, off-again relationship with Netanyahu. I know Donald Trump is having one of his first, President-elect Trump is having one of his first meetings with a foreign head of state. The first is with the Premier of Japan. The second is going to be with Benjamin Netanyahu.
And the third one was
enough.
Putin.
And well, I don't know if the third one is going to be Putin, but they have been in communication.
Yeah.
As he was immediately after the election, he heard from Netanyahu. Now, President Obama, of course, in terms of his Palestinian and Israeli policy, created a lot of agita and a lot of concern in Israel, and very definitely he and Netanyahu had a love-hate relationship. That's quite well evident.
It certainly wasn't a bromance.
No, it was not a bromance at all. Not a bromance at all.
So,
And I think it's interesting to note that President-elect Trump is going to move the American embassy, as you may be
He
aware.
promised, but
Well,
see.
he's already said he's going to.
Yeah, all right, well,
I-
you trust
After-
politicians a little more than I do.
he's moving it to
already.
Jerusalem?
He's
Yeah,
moving it
no,
to
he
Jerusalem.
promised that he was
Not only
gonna
did he
do
promise
that.
it,
He's
he
actually
already
doing it.
announced it post his election,
yeah.
that he is going to follow through on that promise.
Very
So
good.
I take the man at his word.
All right, we'll accept that, yeah.
And if in fact he doesn't follow through, then there's legitimate reason to criticize him,
Yeah.
okay?
Let me ask you, just looking in the future, even though there's more to talk about Obama's administration, are you going to do the same thing with the Trump administration?
I'm not quite sure. We'll see.
See how
We'll see
it-
at this point.
you
What
think that-
evolves, what happens.
But what was fascinating about Obama that had the symposium to come together in 20...
It wasn't just one thing, Mark. You see, there were different areas of discussion and different areas of policy that were focused upon with respect to each of us.
Right.
Okay. So my area was specifically
Counterterrorism.
Counterterrorism and national security policy, where there's very sharp inconsistencies
Right, but I'm
in terms
saying
of the administration.
When did the stars and the moon line up where all of these great minds came together in Biloxi, Mississippi?
Well, two coordinators, one from the Naval War College,
Yeah.
professor of law and political science. He has a JD and a PhD degree, interestingly enough, and a professor of political science from University of Mississippi at Biloxi.
Yeah.
Decided to coordinate such a conference and invited, they put out a public notice to invite
Okay, so
those who were scholars in the field to join them and
So
contribute.
what was so special about this person, Obama, Barack Obama, that this wasn't put together for Richard Nixon or
Oh, it was.
for...
It was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is a continuation
Of other presidents.
of other presidents.
I
There
didn't
was
know
one
that.
for, yeah, okay.
Okay.
There
That's
was
what I was
one,
saying.
there was
Thank you.
one for Bill Clinton.
Oh,
There was one for George W. Bush.
Oh.
And then there was
But
the
this is
most
the
recent
first
for
one that you're,
Obama.
but this is the first one
This
that
is the
you're
first one that
involved.
I was involved with. Previously, I had undertaken my research and publication solo, and I wasn't involved in
This
group
in the
efforts.
academic
This was a
world?
group effort.
So did
This
you
gonna
learn
be-
more about Obama through this symposium, I'm sorry, Rabbi,
Right,
through
go
this symposium than you ever thought that you would
I learned,
know about
yeah, I
him?
learned quite a bit that I wasn't familiar with and I wasn't aware of
Such as what?
before. Well, in terms of some of his economic policies, his social labor policies, his policies with respect to housing.
Specifically,
Well, I mean, what you're talking about
Yeah.
in terms of this president
Yeah.
is the kinds of initiatives that he undertook. I'm not a domestic policy guy.
Right.
So I'm into areas that I'm very comfortable with,
Uh-huh.
and that's national security and counterterrorism.
but you would ask your students these questions that I'm asking you,
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Not necessarily,
All right.
because I don't teach the presidency.
Okay, no, it's just,
I teach law. I teach con law. I could ask them legal questions very definitely, and I'm comfortable doing that.
no, I was saying that you would ask them, well, specifically, what is it about this law, this case that...
Oh,
you
sure,
know, So
sure.
that's what I'm asking specifically about this president that you found the,
Well, I found it to be interesting and informative, not necessarily am I finding it to be so overwhelming that
Okay.
it's so unique and distinct, all right? It's informative for me.
Okay.
So I go
Just,
through a learning
let me ask you,
process
this
for my
book,
colleagues.
Is it possible to be a popular book? I mean, because people would,
I would like
because
it to be
obviously
such,
a lot of
Rabbi.
people do like
Yeah,
Obama, and
yeah.
if you bill it as like the legacy or, the life of the presidency of President Obama. I'm trying to think of a good name for you.
Well, the title of the book already gives it away. I mean, we have a working title, so it's
Which is?
and it's Palgrave Macmillan. So they're a general publisher. It's not a university press,
Yes.
which may make it more
Yeah.
marketable from a
Yeah, sure.
What's the working
national
title?
perspective, which is subject to change.
Right,
But, you
that's
know.
why it's a working title.
Right, okay. So, that's correct. President Obama, President Barack Obama's national security policy and counterterrorism policy, quote, an assessment.
Okay.
Sounds a
So
little
it's-
too
it-
intellectual to
It's
be
dry, yeah,
popular.
it's
I know.
it's academic and dry, all right? It's not sexy.
Yeah, I
so
know.
that it
That's what you
becomes
need,
a public sort of,
Because people like Obama, and therefore maybe if, say, the Obama years, something like that, then good chance.
well, maybe I
there,
should come to
maybe.
you once we decide what the final title
Yeah, the
is going
Jewish
to be.
view over here.
If you want a catchy title, it should be maybe 3 words, maybe, maybe 4, but 3, keep
You
it to
think
3.
3?
Yeah.
Three words.
That's
So
good.
how would you title a study on counterterrorism and national security policy? I'll ask
That
you a
would be a-
specific question.
Right now.
On Obama.
Right here, right now, on the spot, when I had no time to even jumble the words around. So, no, let me think about it. I'll get
Okay,
back to you.
all right, that's a good idea.
Okay,
That's
the
a good
next
idea.
class, I'll get back to you.
I'd like to switch you to the
Sure.
university to teach. What is pre-law? Because a lot of times, people go into law school and says, oh yeah, what did you undergraduate? And they said biology, something like biology. How does biology have to do with law?
Yeah.
So obviously, and they're good lawyers, I have no complaint against them, but why would a person need pre-law?
Good
I
question.
mean, when you can get biology and get into law school also.
Absolutely. That's it. Very distinctly from the study of pre-med, which is biology-driven.
Right.
And in fact requires a student at Siena, for example. Our pre-med program is linked directly with Albany Medical College. So our students have to go through a rigorous biology prep. And in social science, it's more clinical psych that they're involved with than
And I'm
than
sure
any of the other.
chemistry is involved in
Chemistry,
pre-med,
a
yeah.
little bit of physics, but mostly
Right.
biology and biochem, okay? Pre-law, you are correct. You can take any pathway and go to law school. But there are certain courses that are recommended by the American Bar Association Curriculum Subcommittee, which I serve on, as well as the Law School Admissions Council, the LSAC, that students should take to help them prepare for the LSAT, which is the Law School Aptitude Test. Every student that goes to law school has to take the LSAT, all right? There is no waiver. Now, what does that exam test? Critical thinking, analytical reasoning, and effective communication skills, being able to write and orally communicate effectively. So, what do we have at Siena? Which is not unique, okay? Because most solid pre-law programs in the United States have a very similar curriculum.
Yeah, you're not
Why?
reinventing
Because
the
it's
wheel.
recommended by
Yeah,
LSAC and the American Bar Association. Ours is called the certificate program, similar to a minor. Similar to a minor. It's not a major. You can't major in pre-law anywhere. It's not acceptable. So our students have to take, all right, logic, philosophy, math, finite math. They have to take writing. They have to take communications. And the first year of law school is essentially what's called core curriculum, 1L. It's contracts, torts, properties, civ pro, civil procedure, con law, crim law, and legal writing. That's it. That is your curriculum for the first year of law school. 99% of all law schools, that's what you have to take. So, to help the students transition from their senior year to their first year of law school, they take business law. I don't teach business law. That's my colleagues in the School of Business, which exposes them to contracts, torts, property, civ pro. Crim law, which I teach, and con law, constitutional law, which I teach. And I teach it just as it's taught in law school. So the students learn how to brief a case. They learn about the Socratic approach, all right? And they learn how to, in fact, discern the most important elements as they're reading through case materials, so they're prepared. And in law school, it's back and forth dialogue, all right? When a
So-
professor convenes his class, he goes down the roster, he calls on students, and it's fire questions with responses. And that's exactly what I do in my
I have an
classes.
interesting story I always tell that. It was a lawyer, actually, he's a DA in a different state, and I was teaching him Talmud. He went to the little Jewish day school, he had a little touch of the Talmud, but then I teach for adults. He says, hey, I'm a lawyer. And he says, I'll tell you a story, and we're talking about torts, about different, there are in the Talmud different laws for the people, for our viewers, the monetary laws. And he says, I'll tell you a story. I had just very little background in the Talmud, and one day I didn't prepare in law school. And then all of a sudden I'm raising my hand, and I couldn't understand it myself. I didn't even prepare for it, and I'm really into the class. And then I remembered, I learned that in the Gemara, in the Talmud, and I
Yes,
was half
yes.
prepared. So like you say, pre-law, you can learn a little Talmud also and be prepared.
And that's what this does. It's not a formal law program, not by any means. So it's not a substitute for law school. But it helps the students to do two things. Number one, they have to take the LSAT, so hopefully the courses that we recommend as part of the certificate that they take, those 4 courses, indeed are going to enhance the possibility that they'll perform stronger on the exam. And number 2, that the transition from college to law school is made a little bit easier at the comfort level.
Let me ask another question, because I have professors come to our synagogue, and I know a good few, and some of them moan, and they say the students nowadays need remedial writing, they need remedial reading, and it's just abysmal. He's saying, these professors are saying that I have to teach them how to read and write. I mean, you think you go to college, like you say, you're ready to start running with the ball, just ready for a higher level of education.
Well, there's a
Siena's
different
little
form of
better.
communication now among the new millennials. Everything's with respect to our cell phones and on the Twitter and social media.
So they don't
That's
worry.
become predominant, not only in terms of communication at the level of college students, but high school students as well, and adults. We saw that so prevalent in terms of this campaign with Donald Trump tweeting and tweeting.
3
and
in the
tweeting.
morning,
At
yeah.
3 in the morning, all hours of the morning. Our students do the same thing, Mark. They do the exact same thing.
Right.
They're tweeting all hours of the day. And what do they tweet? Not full sentences.
No.
Just fragments and all kinds of symbols
Right.
They don't know how to think.
as they communicate. So does that affect their ability to be able to effectively communicate verbally as well as in writing?
No, it
You're
helps
darn
them-
right it does.
It helps them take notes,
You think?
because they don't have to write the full word. They don't write Y-O-U, they write the letter U.
I know.
They write,
But when
instead
they're-
of change,
but when
they
they're
put
writing
the
a brief,
triangle.
when they're writing a brief, okay, as a young lawyer, they have to be able to express themselves not
But
in
that's
the
why they
context
have,
of you,
but don't they have
but YOU.
clerks for that?
Pardon me?
Don't they have clerks where they write it out and then the clerk interprets it? and writes-
You're thinking of judges writing it out for the clerks writing it out for the judges. That's not quite so. And a young associate in a law firm, he doesn't have the clerks to help him. The paralegals like the judges do. No.
Well,
No. Responsibility is on them.
You mentioned Donald Trump earlier.
I did.
I just wanted to mention that, you said that his comments were incendiary.
I did.
Yeah, why? What comments were incendiary?
Well, specifically the comments that he raised not only during the primary, but post-primary in the battle one-on-one with Hillary Clinton concerning Muslims, concerning women, concerning Gold Star parents. We can replay this as
No,
many
but I'm
times as you
asking,
want.
do you think that he said it just so that he's in the paper and not Hillary? Do you think he did it for the publicity, as a public
I don't know.
relations thing?
If that were his motivation, Mark,
He worked.
If that were his motivation, then I find it to be just absolutely unacceptable. that he
Why?
would
It
do
goes
that.
under the saying, say what you want about me, just get my name right.
Oh, come on.
And you, really?
Come on,
and-
I
and
mean,
you want to be in the
to-
paper, not your opponent. So people don't really remember.
To use that kind of vitriolic truculence against others of,
I think that's
in
what
our
he is over
society,
here,
I mean-
Mark. I don't think it was thought out. That's what he is. I
well,
mean,
of course he's a knee-jerker, but I don't know that you would want somebody like that in the White House to make those sorts of
We
comments.
will have them for 4 years, that's.
Of course, we're going to have them
bottom
for 4
line, yeah.
years, but I'm just
Maybe
saying.
we'll have advisors.
that
But didn't
specifically,
but didn't-
you asked
yeah.
me why I found it incendiary. Because this election, more so than any election in recent memory, even going back to the period of, Goldwater and Johnson, all right, back in the 60s, you and I recall those days, Kennedy, Nixon.
Right.
I mean, this election created so much divisiveness within our society. Recall what just happened yesterday.
Yeah.
Can you remember in recent presidential history, after the election results are in, okay, that you would have in 32 cities around this country demonstrations, as you did most of the day yesterday? Different
no.
sectors of our society?
No, because
opposed to Donald Trump
It's-
because
right.
because of the way he behaves.
holding up a sign, he's not my president, or what, and being.
And he is our president.
Yeah.
And the rabbi and you were correct, that in fact, we have to move forward. But you asked me why,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm explaining to you why, that I found it so incendiary and divisive, and certainly unbecoming of the type
Okay,
of society
so
that
here's-
we should have
so
in
here's what
terms
I'm-
of our democratic civil process.
Okay, so here's what I'm gonna-
We can agree to disagree,
That's true, and we will.
and we can do so civilly.
Okay, but when you look at the tapes of what Nixon and Johnson said privately, and you look at the way they presented themselves publicly,
That's correct.
it's two totally different people.
That's correct. That's right.
Okay, at least Trump is being honest, and he's being an honest a broker, where you know that what he feels privately, he's also stating publicly. And he's just not being a facade where, oh my gosh, he was this way publicly, but now we have these tapes, and look at how he is, privately. Look at that. The microphone didn't even like what I was saying.
It just blew up.
So I'm just saying that.
I'm not justifying
But the
Nixon's behavior on the tapes, or for that matter, the
Johnson
information
tapes.
that
Yeah.
the information we have from Doris Kearns Goodwin and on Lyndon Baines
So
Johnson, and I'm sure that exists with respect to other presidents as well.
Right.
Behind closed doors and in private quarters.
At least you know what you're getting, and he's saying.
But
he's not saying
these
something
were
privately.
specific hold on. These were specific instances where the president in question singled out individuals, as you may recall, for particular challenges and comments and remarks. In terms of Donald Trump, he was focusing on classes of individuals, all right? All Muslims, Mexicans as rapists and criminals. We don't have to go through the litany
right.
of what he was talking
Right,
about.
but-
Separate and apart from the kinds of remarks that he made against individuals like John McCain, like the New York Times reporter who had a physical disability.
Yeah.
I mean, that's totally inappropriate and
The only
unacceptable.
I think the only thing we can hope is just that maybe he's learned, he has advisors and people.
You're saying he got it out of his system, and
I don't know how to say,
Well,
but you can
you know,
separate
he
it.
is old. How do
you could
change
make
a
the
something?
argument, as Mark did, that it was all for public exposure
Yeah.
and getting attention in the media, which he commanded, all right?
Yes, he
Which
sure
he commanded,
did, yeah.
overwhelmingly negatively, but he commanded. Bear in mind, this guy had a 64% negative rate, okay?
right.
Going into the election, and he's elected.
That's right.
What saved him was the fact that she was at 62% negative.
That's right.
Never have we had such a high negative in terms of our presidential
shame
history.
over here,
And you're holding your nose rather than voting for a candidate that you can support. You're voting against the other candidate? Come
I
on.
agree.
I mean, there's just something wrong with this picture and this whole
Well, so it's
election
just not
cycle.
Donald Trump, it was Hillary Clinton also.
Oh, I don't.
It was both
I don't in
candidates.
any way exonerate Hillary Clinton
Yeah.
in terms of
But
her
you know,
behavior.
But I'll tell you
And-
about the women, the comments about the women and all that, and they're coming forward saying what he did to them and all that. You know what? He wasn't thinking of being president when he was Miss Universe or Miss America.
Regardless, is that
pageant.
the way you should treat women? As sex objects, as he did, and
Yes, something
we
about-
saw the exchange he had with
There's something about
the CBS commentator or NBC commentator. I forget who. it
Megyn
was.
Kelly, you mean?
No, that was Fox.
Oh, yeah,
when he was talking
yeah.
about her. No, I'm talking about the entertainer
Okay. Oh, Billy Bush, you mean?
Billy Bush, yeah, when he
Okay.
had the discussion with Billy Bush.
But you know-
in that trailer.
He wasn't running for president at the time. He
That
wasn't
doesn't
thinking of-
exonerate him in any,
But this is
in
who he
any
is.
way, shape, or form.
But this is who he is. So if people didn't like that about him, then they don't
But that kind
vote for him.
of
But at least he was
behavior,
honest.
that kind of behavior has been consistent. It's manifested in all kinds of actions that he had. You mentioned Megyn Kelly. What about the way he treated Carly Fiorina in the
Yeah.
primaries? Come on. I mean, Mark, give me a break here.
You know.
And yet the guy is able, to his credit, to pull over 43, 44% of the female vote nationally.
That's right.
When Hillary Clinton was supposed to be
Female
pulling
choice,
65 to
yeah.
70 minimum, okay?
And
She
she
only got
didn't.
50 some odd percent,
Right.
all right? The way he insulted Latinos and Latinas, all right? And Hispanics. He was supposed to, in fact, get less than 20%. Guess what? He got 33%. Help me here. African Americans, you know, who, of course, because of the Obama coalition, supported Obama with 90 some odd percent of their vote. In the case of Hillary Clinton, it was 82%, 83%. What's going on here? I mean, that whole
always say-
coalition crumbled
Because
for her.
because
don't know.
people are saying, at least he's paying attention to us. We may not like what he's saying, but at least he's recognizing us. He's not
You know
ignoring
what?
us.
You know what they're saying, and it's certainly proven true in terms of this cycle and the exit interviews that were undertaken by Edison Research
Yeah.
in the hardcore districts. Okay, in various states, target states. We want change.
That's right.
We're voting for change, and Donald Trump represents change. He's not part of that damn political establishment.
That's right.
Look at Hillary Clinton. She's been in it for 30 some odd years.
Right.
And she and Bill, all right, are just part of a political dynasty like the Bushes.
Well, maybe Barbara Bush was right. We don't need another Bush or Clinton in the White House.
She was right
You know.
in terms of
But
the
you know,
outcome.
I always said, I called it 30 years ago. I says, well, what Ronald Reagan also, what America would want is like a John Wayne. And that's what he was. You know, oh, he's an enemy, I'll hit him in the nose. You know, some real tough guy. And I was right. I really pat myself on the back. I could be a professor of political science too. over
Yeah,
here.
but you know, it's interesting. She ran those as part of the close, and I think that was a poor strategy to, in fact, repeat that. You know, the expletives deleted, of course, but how he would treat heads of foreign states. The American public wasn't interested in that.
If anything, they liked it, I
They
think.
did not want their presidential candidate to be focusing on foreign affairs. They wanted to know, what the heck are you going to be doing here?
Here.
At home for me.
It's about
right?
the economy, stupid.
And
right?
it's the economy, stupid. You're absolutely right. And that was the other part of his message.
Did you see
It's the economy, stupid. Now, I'm going to make that change.
Did you see the letter that Richard Nixon and Pat Nixon wrote to Trump? Like
Well, how
in
many years ago?
1993.
I did not know.
They said to him, if you run for office, you're going to be successful.
Did
You
they?
should run for the presidency, and you would be successful.
Either got right guy.
They put it down in a letter to him after they
Well,
met
Nixon,
him a couple
in
of
many ways,
times.
was, despite, again, talking about legacies,
Yeah.
a very mixed legacy, but Nixon was quite prescient and very sharp as a strategist and
Yes,
tactician.
and so was Pat.
And so was his wife. Pat.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, this is this was like a revelation that all of a sudden this letter came out, and I'm sure he's got it framed now.
And I think, and I think in reality, as I've said to my students, the campaign is over, all right? And some of the stuff that he said, building this super wall and getting rid of all of the Muslims here who are here illegally, et cetera. He's not going to be doing that. all
Right, exactly.
But
I think everyone knew that.
Other things he'll follow through on, and very definitely one of his first actions is to address the issue of Affordable Care Act, of Obamacare, and he's got the partnership with the House and the Senate to address that.
Both
Same party,
Republican,
okay?
yeah.
Same thing with respect to rectifying the Supreme Court loss of Anthony Scalia. So he's going to select a nominee who is in fact a Scalia prototype, if you will. But the blessing of our society is the fact that we have checks and balances and separation of powers. Regardless of the fact that Republicans control both houses of Congress, that doesn't mean they're in total lockstep with Donald
Of
Trump.
course not.
If you look at his tax reform proposals and you look at those proposed by Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell, they're distinct, okay? So there's going to be compromises in terms of revising
And that's
that,
what he
overhauling
does.
that tax
He
code.
makes deals.
He makes deals.
And that's what he wants.
And that's what the public, again, respects about him, and that's what they want.
Exactly.
They want a deal maker.
So he's
Barack
coming-
Obama has been crippled for the past 4 years.
So he's
He
coming-
has been gridlocked.
So Trump is coming to the table saying, we're going to, all Muslim. Okay, so now we're just going to do 60%. So, okay, I'm compromising. We're not doing all Muslim. You know, we're building the wall. Okay, so Mexico doesn't have to pay for, you know, all of it.
Oh, Mexico will
But-
pay one way or another. I
Well,
mean, with
yeah.
the peso devaluated 70%, man, they are really in deep water.
They are, and he's going to use the aid we send to Mexico
As
the-
a stick.
right.
Exactly, exactly.
And so I think they will pay for the wall one way or the other.
Yeah,
you
and I
know,
think he'll
so-
take a harder line with China in terms of what China's done
That's
in
true.
their
Tariff.
economic.
will
in their-
he,
exactly.
But will he pull his own business interests out from all the other countries and bring them to the
Well,
United
you know,
States?
I would hope he learned his lessons from the kind of exposure that Hillary and Bill got. Even given the fact that the foundation is supposed to be not-for-profit and eleemosynary, and it does some great work. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong here.
Right.
But there was really that kind of commingling and conflict of interest with respect to him, her, Chelsea, the family,
Right.
while she was serving in public office
That's right.
as Secretary of State, which was unseemly. And the public just doesn't buy that stuff.
And-
Donald Trump has to sever his corporate interests, you know, the control of the family, get all of that stuff in blind trust and.
But there's no law that says he needs
Well, he
to.
says he's going to, but he's
Like
number
a
one.
governor or a mayor, there's nothing that says the president needs to.
Well,
Because we've never had just a businessman, only a businessman
exclusively,
exclusively as president.
True.
So they never addressed it.
True.
You know. So the other thing is, I'll bet you his taxes never get audited again. We don't have to worry about seeing his taxes.
he's going to have to release them
Release
as
them.
president.
He'll release them, but he won't. He will never be audited again.
We're out of time, but you know what I always say, stay tuned, because we have 4 years and we
That's
will
right.
see what's going to happen. We
You
can
are so
predict
correct.
as much as we want. But Professor, I want to thank you for being on the Jewish View, to look back, at least that you can have hindsight, like what the 8 years of Obama was, but then, like I say, stay tuned for the future, and
Sure.
thank you very much for
Yeah,
giving us
we'll
your
come back and
views.
talk again. How's that?
Appreciate that.
All right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Stay there, man.
Oh, sorry.
All right.
Oh, you have two police officers.
Yeah.
And then next, huh?
The sheriff.
Oh, I don't want to hold up the
Yeah,
sheriff.
well,